Welcome to Unscripted Gaming. I'm Josh.
I'm Mike.
I'm Stan.
Gentlemen, how we been doing?
We've been doing pretty good. We've been playing some games.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of news, so
Yeah, we kicked off a new feature. Unscripted Gaming plays X.
We don't call it that.
X.
We don't call it that.
I call it
Tune
that.
into the
But it's where
X.
Stan, Mike, and I play some video games. Maybe even streamed out on my Twitch channel. So
On the X.
yeah, that's on the X. X.
It's just called Unscripted Plays. I don't know what the hell he's talking about, everyone.
Unscripted plays.
It's what it's
on
called.
W95, the
It's what
bone.
To be in the bone. It's what I call
We
it
uploaded
in
2
my
Duck
mind.
Game videos, yeah. And I noticed that we've, doubled our subscribers, though it wasn't much before. Hey, everybody!
People like Duck Game.
Technically
and
doubled
We
is
want to
still
give the
doubled,
people what they
so-
want.
Yeah.
Cool.
Don't worry. There will be more games incoming soon, and Unscripted Gaming plays X.
That's not the title of it.
I approve that name. 2 out of 3.
As the producer, I declined this title, and I'm the one that makes it.
Try and edit it out.
It's very easy, actually. It's shockingly easy.
Well, let's give Stan a good edit point.
No, stop, asshole, stop.
Okay, there. Are you happy now? You can cut it right out. No one will have to know.
Okay, fair enough.
No,
I'm gonna keep it in.
All right. Well, hey,
Hey,
let's
Stan,
go ahead, Josh.
did you finish Undertale?
So thank you for mentioning that. So last time we talked, I did mention I was playing Undertale. I was like 2 hours in, and right after that podcast, I just sat down and played it. It took me we finished that podcast at like 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and I played it. It took me till 8:30 that night. That is, from a design perspective, from a music perspective, from a story perspective, one of the best video games I have ever played. And I say that without reservation and not as kind of a hype up like, oh my gosh, this is one of the best video games, period. You should play it. No, I say as anyone that has an interest in playing a video game where the designer, the creators, everyone involved with it, showed a lot of love, care, and attention to the actual game itself, should play this game. And it's not just one of those games that you play and it's a great game because it's like Skyrim. It takes 50 hours to beat. Nah, you can beat it in 6 hours. As a matter of fact, if you want everything out of it, you got to beat it twice or 3 times or possibly 4. And that's okay. And the game rewards you for that. And the game remembers everything that you've done on each playthrough. Phenomenal. It is a phenomenal game. And the soundtrack is the best soundtrack of 2015. Nothing else compares.
The amount of times that I will just put Hopes and Dreams on my phone and or my computer and just kind of listen to it throughout the day.
Song.
It's a great fucking song. And all that
Minus
song.
Spider Dance, Dummy, Asgore.
I like to put the Temmie theme on it.
Oh, the Temmie theme! It's fucking rad! Yeah,
It's so good. And I love the fact that the game will mention the fact that, hey, didn't you have a save file and you went and reverted because you did something stupid? Didn't you do that?
No.
Yeah, the game literally... I'm not going to try to give anything away, and we can't really talk that much about the game. We mentioned the sound's good, we mentioned the story's good, but the game does... It is painstakingly programmed to remember every action that you take. And I actually love it a lot for that, because that shows that the game had a lot of care placed into it. And I teased Josh for this. It was a Kickstarter game. And it is bar none one of the best video games I've ever played, and it was a Kickstarter game. I am ashamed I didn't give money to this game.
It is a very good example of a Kickstarter done right. You know, somebody who got their money, exceeded their goal, but still kept that scope in a reasonable fashion that they could get done. And I really appreciate that. And I do like that there's a lot of things. They take a lot of the devices and things that we've come to expect in an RPG of that style, in the language that we've developed around it, and turn that on its head throughout the game. And you really don't even really get to know that until the very end. But things you think you understand about this style of game, at the end it's like, actually, It's the exact opposite of that. And they use that to their advantage, that you're going to more than likely think this way, giving you that sense of, shit, now I really need to play through it a different way, going against everything that I think about this kind of game.
The game is constantly subverting your expectations in just a really cool ways. All the characters and writing are so good. The whole package of that game is just, it's damn good.
Bar none, the best skeleton dating sim of 2015.
Absolutely. No argument. I, as someone that works in the game industry and someone that had to go to school to learn games, this game stands as a testament to doing every single facet of making a video game right.
This is one of those games that if you were doing your education again right now, your professors would be talking about in a year or two.
Yes, I would say so. And it doesn't like do anything hammy. Like, it's not a super RPG that takes forever to beat. It's not a highfalutin FPS that takes like 40 hours to beat because you're going through a massive open world. No, the game is what it is, tells a perfect story. Then you have the option to tell that story again, and you will want to know that story. Like, right after we're done with this podcast, I got round 2 loaded up. I'm not even kidding. I think I'm going to go back, attack it, and get possibly one of the multiple endings the game brags about having.
Yeah.
Speaking of great stories, Mike, have you been playing any games with great stories?
I have been playing a game with a pretty good story, and it's called Firewatch. We finally know what it is.
Mike, what is Firewatch?
You have the worst segues.
I have the best segue. Shut up. Mike, tell me what Firewatch is.
Okay, Firewatch is... some people would tag it as a walking simulator. I think that's very reductive. But if you want it, it's a narrative-based kind of adventure game set in the Wyoming wilderness in like the 1980s. You play as a character named Henry, who's, after certain events in his life had led him to kind of take this kind of solitary position as a fire lookout. And certain events and relationships get built over the summer as you kind of are doing this position. And it was a really cool game. It's developed by a studio called Campo Santo. It's their first title. I think a lot of their team, it comes from the Walking Dead season 1 with Telltale. But this game, if you go and watch some trailers for it, you see, the art style is really enjoyable. It kind of looks pretty similar to The Witness in terms of kind of a cel shady but really colorful art design. I think they do a really good job of putting you in that place, just in terms of, you're using walkie-talkies and paper maps and the books in your lookout tower. They think they do a really great job of putting you in that environment. I don't want to go in too much more into the story. I had a couple of kind of nitpicky criticisms, with the resolution of the story, but it really kind of felt like a page turning kind of beach read of a game. Not in like a reductive way. It wasn't particularly long. It was about 4 or 5 hours. But for a first time game from a smaller studio, it was really cool. I greatly enjoyed it.
And I haven't played it yet, but I watched a few videos of some of the early stuff as people were kind of going through the whole what is Firewatch, and they were starting to show the game and doing the early press stuff. And I will say that is one of the best directed and voice acted performances that I've heard in a game in a long time.
The voice acting is
really
very good. Just the two
feel the conversationalness between the two characters. It doesn't feel forced at all, and I do really look forward to playing that game. If for the very least to hear that great voice acting throughout, because that just really filled me with a lot of excitement about that. It's just, man, you don't hear voice acting that good.
Yeah, what's lacking in terms of the actual the gameplay itself, and some like I said, some criticisms I have with the narrative later on, is totally offset just by the excellent like the writing that the characters get, and just their incredible execution on that. On that, like both the actors did an incredible. There's two main characters, and both of a male and a female, and they were both excellent. So, if a quote walking simulator like Gone Home or Dear Esther isn't really your cup of tea, I definitely think you'd be okay waiting to pick up like Firewatch if it goes on sale or something like that. But it's something I really enjoyed, and I think it's something me and my wife played through, and it's just as fun to play through it as it is to watch someone else play through it. It's a very cool thing, and I can't wait to see what comes next from Campo Santo.
I noticed you mentioned Gone Home and Dear Esther, and immediately that turned me off from ever touching this game.
I think in terms of those games, because a lot of Gone Home and Dear Esther, I think are a lot more, I guess, passive in terms of the story, in that you're kind of going through an area where the story's already happened. This Firewatch is much more active in that the story's happening now. It's happening to your character. If that changes your appeal, it's a lot more engaging in terms of, I mean, not engaging is the wrong word, but it's a lot more present in terms of what's going on in the narrative and how.
Felix.
And I think that made me very invested in that.
Yeah, so you're actually completing the story yourself, not just having the story told to you and you're walking around.
Exactly, yes.
If that was the case, there's nothing wrong with reading a book. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would. If those were some of the turnoffs that you had with Gone Home, I would. I
just have the thought that if I'm going to play a video game, I need it to be a somewhat more interactive experience than I'm walking around and finding a piece of paper and the story's just being told to me. That's why I read books. Mm-hmm. That's just my personal opinion, and that's my take on it. But yeah, there's certain.
But at least for me, that's where the medium is starting to really explore its storytelling legs. It's really starting to get into, okay, you know what? We have these conventions. We've been using them for a while, but what can we really do with it? What can we do with a very compacted amount of time? What can we do with a specific visual style and a lack of context clues or intricate backstory or 50 hours of development? What can we do with the tools that we have in a short amount of time and still tell a very compelling story?
Right. And I guess in response, sorry to cut you off, Josh.
No, you're fine.
In response to what you were saying, Stan, here, I think Firewatch is a game that I think could translate very well to.
It looks more interesting
to a novel or a movie, but I would say having played through it, I absolutely think it is. I don't feel like it was in the wrong medium by any means. I think, the gameplay elements that are in there. There's a lot of kind of branching dialogue and decision making, and just exploring that place the place that you're in Wyoming. I think it does a lot of great things to kind of ground you in that environment through the interaction you have. That really worked for me. So I definitely think it was something that I think, even though there's not tons of emergent branching gameplay like Metal Gear Solid 5, for example, I think the gameplay and interaction you do have in there goes a long way to really put you in that environment in a way that I think absolutely works. So I think it's definitely something worth checking out. It's pretty cool. The music's very good too.
I'm not saying it's for everybody. I'm not saying everybody needs to get it at $20 right off the bat, but I am excited to see people exploring the storytelling available through this medium and through a slightly more interactive thing than a book or a movie. So and I think we're going to see a lot more of this over the next few years. And again, it's not for everybody, but I'm glad it exists, and I'm very interested to see where it goes.
Exactly.
So speaking of being interested in seeing where it goes,
here we go.
Stan, did a video game come out this week?
Yeah, so who here's played Street Fighter? Legit question.
I've played some Street Fighter here and there.
Street Fighter.
All right. Did you guys play Street Fighter 4? Were you guys down with that?
Yes.
We did. We actually, Mike and I lived together in college, and one day we went to a second-hand video store near our university, picked up a copy of Street Fighter 4, and began to playing the shit out of it.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. All right. So I played Street Fighter 4, the day it came out. I also played Super Street Fighter 4, also the day it came out. So
talk about.
So Street Fighter 5 came out. It was today or yesterday.
Did it though?
So here's the thing about Street Fighter 5.
It's an early access.
Basically, it's the beta came out. It's missing lots of key features like a robust single player. Apparently, the single player can be beaten in about 10 to 20 minutes tops. I mean, I don't know about you, but most Street Fighter games takes you like half an hour to an hour to sit down.
Yeah, because here's the thing. They released like basically what you could call a challenge mode. So each character has these set of challenges and semi-story behind it. But the full story of the events that take place between Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 3 and advancing the plot of anything and really having any meat to it, not coming out until May? March? One of those months. Not coming out for a while, though.
March is not too far. That's
I think,
a week and a half.
I think the March is when the first DLC characters were starting to show up, and I think the main story components and like the real main story meat wasn't coming until June. I know something.
Yeah, something like that.
So,
but that's a long time for a game to be out without its single player capacity. Especially one in which casual players will generally use the single player time as the single player campaign as a time to learn characters, pick their main, and then begin branching out into the multiplayer.
Get good.
So I haven't bought Street Fighter 5 because my friends at work, we have a group of people at work where we all play a bunch of fighting games. Smash Brothers has been our go-to as of late, and now that Street Fighter V is out, they're telling me that it's weak, son. Getting online, you're just not getting matches, or the servers are just not loading up.
You've been having a lot of just connecting to matches. It's still not working for you.
And so for me, that's enough reason not to go ahead and buy it, because when I do play a multiplayer game, I eventually want to hop online. And
that boggles my mind.
That we're still in this day and age where online connectivity on the day one release is still an issue.
And I do get it. You can never fully test for what an actual server load's going to be.
And then you're never going to need that server load again after the first week.
But here's the thing.
It's kind of...
They've had 3 or 4
They've had 3 betas.
In which they've had the exact same problem. Yeah. And they know that the game is releasing without a fully featured single player
So people
mode.
are going to play multiplayer. They're like, you know what, it's a competitive fighting game. Let me compete. And then, oh, wait, this ain't happening.
To me, I can't comprehend a world, and I do know part of the reason, but I just can't comprehend a world in which they sat down and said, this is ready to go out, the servers are robust enough, hit the button. Yeah. I just don't understand that.
And correct me if I'm wrong here, because they released part of, I guess, the game as it is right now, which is mostly has just some online lobbies, a pretty bare bones single player, into I guess, accommodate the Capcom Pro Tour, correct?
Supposedly, yeah, which is coming up
That's
soon.
what most people have said, and you know, there is a history of Street Fighter launching in February, but I think the big thing was getting out with the Capcom Cup, which.
Here's my problem with that. Hold on, before you get into that, here's my problem with that. If it's to compete with the Capcom Cup, and you knew that you were releasing a not fully finished product, you have one of two options to make it right. One, reduce the price. Charge full price for the other features later, if that's what you want to do. If you're like, we need to rush this game out now, but you know it's not a fully feature-complete game. Okay, there's one option. Option two, wait. Just wait. The people that are going to compete in the Capcom Cup, let's be honest, it's the same top 30 people every time.
Exactly. It's the top, like,
Yep.
Give them a copy
of all Street Fighter players.
They're going to play Street Fighter V whenever
They've been playing. They've been playing
if it's in February or if it's in June.
Let's be fair. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So let them play. Give it to them and say, hey, we're going to let our top guys play. And if you really want to build hype, on the day that the Capcom Cup starts, then release Street Fighter V to the general public. And I know there's an argument people are going to make, like, oh, what if I wanted to compete? What if I wanted to go to Capcom Cup? Come on now.
Or come
on.
You could have Lupe Fiasco play Daigo and win.
Yeah, so Lupe Fiasco, I think that's his name, is a rapper, beat Daigo here in San Francisco at the Foundry 3 days ago. I watched the video.
That was in no way scripted and completely genuine, and I bet if you repeated that experiment multiple times, Lupe Fiasco would always beat Daigo.
I did watch the fight.
For those not watching the video feed, I rolled my eyes pretty heavily.
I did watch the fight, and I gotta say, I've seen Daigo fight in many competitions, and it didn't look like he brought his A game. He didn't do any techs.
He took a dive.
He got hit. He got tagged by every wake-up shover Ken that Ken was throwing at him. Every single one.
Almost like Daigo beating a rapper wouldn't have been a story, but a rapper beating Daigo would create headlines that people would say, hey, by the way, Street Fighter V's out. Maybe I should give that a look.
Yeah,
You might be onto something.
So if Daigo sold his soul like that, I've lost a lot of respect in him. I really do respect Daigo Yohamura as a professional Street Fighter because he just does things that just make my jaw hit the floor.
I mean, you can tell from the video he did not give.
I have seen Daigo do things with button timing where it's like that makes me want to go sit down for 5 hours and practice. But when I was watching that fight, it was like two people that just picked up the sticks just started playing the game for a little bit. It's like, that's Daigo. What's he doing? Why isn't he blocking? Why is he not teching any of those throws? Why is he not blocking? Sorry.
Either way, I can't.
I would have beat Lupe Fiasco. And I'm a scrub.
I don't understand Capcom's decision. I really hope they get some of that content out earlier, especially as a casual fighting game fan. The fact that the game is in the state that it's in makes me really want to stay away from it. And by the time all that stuff comes out, everybody who is playing that game will be so good that I won't be interested in anyway.
That's already online. Like, if you're actually getting into a good online connected match, the people that have been playing the cracked beta for the past, I want to say 5 to 6 months, will get on there, do things you didn't think was possible because the game has no tutorial to properly explain itself. And then you'll just sit down with your controller or stick in hand and wonder, alright, just put it down on the table. Good game, I guess. I'm gonna go play something else, like a single-player game.
I thought about picking up Street Fighter V because I was thinking about getting into a fighting game, and then I decided against it. And this launch is the reason why.
Yeah. It just, from what I've heard about the feature list, I mean, with all the replay stuff, like that sounds cool for the top third of people who play Street Fighter, but for a lot of
the 1%, they build it for the 1%.
Oh no.
No, Josh has a.
But what about the rest
of us?
Josh has
a point there. Josh does has a point. Like the game that came out is for people like me, my friends. It's for fighting game fans. That's how that game that exists right now.
So it does a pretty good job of appealing to them, but it's at some point you kind of have to think about
you've got to onboard us filthy casuals. You have to
onboard me. Do it.
So speaking of filthy casuals, Call of Duty Black Ops 3 is experimenting with some interesting things through the month of February. A lot of people have been clamoring for years. Black Ops, well, not Black Ops, but Call of Duty should separate out its multiplayer. They should offer things piecemeal for people to buy who only are interested in one thing or the other. Well, this February, they're trying that out. Black Ops 3 is launching its multiplayer only for $15. You can, if you want to, buy the full game minus the $15 later, but they're going to be testing that out, kind of seeing if people are interested in buying the multiplayer only. Now, I get it that Black Ops 3 has been out for a while. It's not the new hotness, and Call of Duty numbers are down over the last few years, but I think that's an interesting route to take. And you're not going to get all of the features in the multiplayer package that you would if you bought the full feature game. You're only going to get ranked servers. You're not going to get custom matches. You're not going to be able to prestige. But it's a very interesting experiment with the multiplayer, which is the main draw for a lot of people.
Absolutely. I was thinking the same thing, kind of like you had just said, with the fatigue of the series that they've been experiencing. I think, in these kinds of, in days and ages where, it's obviously different, but where there are a lot of, like, free-to-play games like MOBAs. Like, you can't launch a MOBA for $60. It's almost like we're kind of getting closer to that point with shooters. So to see them kind of think about something like this, I mean, it's smart. I don't know if that guarantees that launch day of the new Call of Duty that they'll have something like this, but I think it's certainly cool that they're, exploring.
It's been something that everyone's been asking for a long time. I'll be honest, there's been only one Call of Duty. Actually, no. Like Battlefield 3, that game, I never touched the single-player story mode. And Battlefield 4, I wish I didn't. Because, wow, the single-player mode of that game crashed on me like 3 times.
I really I enjoyed single-player in Battlefield 3.
It was all right.
For me, I got really sick of Call of Duty around Modern Warfare 2. The multiplayer pissed me off. I did end up playing the original Black Ops and was okay with it. Not super great, though. That was the last one that I'd ever bought. I really wanted to play Modern Warfare 3 story campaign because I was very interested in seeing what crazy shit they did with it. But I did not want to play the multiplayer at all. And I did not want to pay $60 to get that whole package. Now, if they had been broken up separately, I would have considered buying at least part of that for the single-player campaign, and they would have gotten some sale out of me instead of none.
Yeah. I honestly, if they're certainly experimenting with the multiplayer, breaking off, I mean, there are probably people, out there who just play for Black Ops for the zombie stuff. So yeah, I would not be surprised at all if they, start exploring breaking off just, the Call of Duty campaign, the Call of Duty Black Ops, like Call of Duty Zombies, like really seeing them break all that stuff off, because it is kind of it's a game that you can it's very easy to kind of do that, because
you can break out at least 3 distinct, if not 4 distinct pieces from, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people doing the math, a lot of people thinking about it and watching these figures, but this may be a way to get some people who have fallen off back on, because there are certain aspects of the game they want to keep playing, but they don't want to pay $60 for the whole thing. And it may be better for them to get 20 million people paying portions instead of 10 million people paying the full price. It's it's just very reassuring to see a franchise like that who has been so set in their ways for so long,
big change,
doing the same thing, thinking about ways to make it better for the consumer and more relevant to the way people game and think about their gaming purchases and habits in this current economy and day and age. So that's really,
we live in a post Steam sale world, you know.
Yeah.
Felix, stop.
Yep. And you know what? Speaking of game companies who are listening to the needs of their customers and their developers.
That was the most contrite one yet. God damn.
I'm not even mad. I'm just impressed. Just go on.
Keep going.
What's the next story?
It's been confirmed that Destiny 2, I hate that name, is not coming out in 2016, even though it was contractually obligated from Activision by Bungie to come out this year. It is not coming out this year.
As a pretty, I'll take point on this one, as I played a lot of that, a lot of Destiny. There is going to be a larger piece of I think the final piece of expansion for Destiny 1 this year.
Something like the Taken King.
I'm not sure what the scope will be. I think it will probably need to be around the size of the Taken King, so pretty big, pretty large experience I think will be coming this year.
Yeah.
I don't. Did we see we didn't get a confirmed release date for Destiny 2, did we? Are we?
No, they just said it was pushed back into sometime in 2017.
Okay. I imagine it'll probably still be around, you know, I would guess fall, but honestly, I think this is a good move. I mean, the live team, you know, they've done some, you know, I thought Sparrow Racing was okay, but the PvP events like the Valentine stuff and some other things, you know, just that doesn't really do it for me. So I'm excited for the announcement of new PvE stuff this year and like a new raid potentially. Yeah. I really like the raids. And I'm very definitely okay with, and I think most other Destiny fans, you know, are going to be bummed by the wait, but I think definitely okay with waiting and giving Bungie plenty of time to make it Destiny 2, because I think obviously the last thing anybody wants is for Destiny 2 to launch like Destiny 1. I mean,
yeah, you don't want a situation where it was clear that there was this original vision, this original scope, and so much got cut out from time's constraints. Mm-hmm. And you know, Bungie typically, well, not typically, historically, with looking back to the Halo franchise, worked on a 3-year cycle. Mm-hmm. And that's when the big tentpoles came up every 3 years. Yeah, there was stuff in between. They did events. You know, you got your ODSTs, you got your reaches, but the big stuff came out on 3 years. And it makes me very optimistic that Activision, even though they said, this is the release schedule we expect from you, Bungie, it's going to be 2 years, that they can say, you know what?
We're
invested in this game.
Do this right.
We're invested in this property. We're invested in what we give to the fans, and they need a little extra time, and we're going to give that.
So I think,
and we're going to say, you're going to get some content this year. You're going to get some events. You're going to get a big expansion, but you're not going to get the sequel, because you know what? We need the time we need to make it right. I think
Destiny has hit the point of just straight diminishing returns. Honestly, like even the people that are hardcore Destiny players, the reason why I haven't played it, I was there for year one. I was the beta tester. All right, even though it was a fully released $60 game, that thing was in beta, and then people like Mike come along and are like, "What are you talking about, Stan? This game is great." After playing it in year 2.
No, I fully understand that. I fully understand that. And it is, at this point, it is a good game. As someone who hadn't played anything before all of that stuff was out, I loved the time I've spent with it.
Oh, I'm sure you do, because I'm sure it's everything I had a problem with during year 1 of Destiny was fixed in year 2. And the new people coming in are wondering, like, what are you guys talking about? This is amazing. Well,
Well, it's also the fact that what I spent, the content I spent about $60 for would have cost you like $120.
Exactly. If I want to actually
that's kind of a bummer.
If I want to get into Destiny right now, I have to come off 60 more bones, and you know what? Not doing it. No, you didn't earn that trust, Activision. And yeah, that's what I mean to Josh. Also, where it's gotten to diminishing returns. Like at this point, imagine if next year they honestly said, you know what? Here's the sequel to this game that we told you was going to be a 10-year project. No one would have bought it. No one. Like, it would have probably had the same player install base as, like, an offshoot Japanese game that comes stateside.
Well, you know what? They have been rebuilding the trust because they released The Taken King. And The Taken King was so well received, and it's when you started to get that glimpse of, this is what they had in mind. This is them getting back on track to that original vision and saying, you know what? This is the project, this is the product that we had envisioned, that we had expected, and they're getting back to it. Yeah, and I think Activision is giving them that time to make sure that Destiny 2 is more like The Taken King than Destiny 1. They're making sure that it is more in line, in track, and in scope of that vision and that product that they had originally envisioned.
Exactly. I mean, because just in terms of the story content that exists between vanilla Destiny and the stuff that the campaign of The Taken King, it's night and day. I mean, you don't have to go to your Bungie.net account to read the Grimoire cards.
I thought you still had to.
You still have to for like the deep lore stuff, but there's a lot more of that is incorporated into the game.
Such utter bullshit.
What's sad, what's really frustrating, and what makes me so excited that they're taking more time on Destiny 2 is that going through, and I read some of the Grimoire. It's my deep dark secret. I read it, and some of it's really, really interesting, really cool lore. They built such a cool universe, and they've really got the gameplay down with the gameplay is top notch. It's so much fun. The fact that they don't have like a meetup party system for things like the raids and stuff like in the game, that you have to use like a third party website like Reddit or some LFG, like stuff like that isn't in the game. In a game like that is very problematic, and incorporating that story is in a website is lazy and bad. So giving them more time giving them time to fix those two things, it's just if they can do it, if they can fix those two things and just built upon what they started with The Taken King, they can knock that thing out of the park. It's just, I hope they take this extra time that they've got here. I mean, obviously they've been working probably around the clock, like getting this a big new expansion coming out later this year and all this other stuff. I think they have a chance to really, really pay off on what Destiny was supposed to be back in 2014. But, we'll wait and see.
When I first played Destiny in year one, I literally did everything you could do in that game. Just shy of playing Volta Glass in hard mode, because why? That's just masochism at that point. But I'm glad that they still stuck with it. They released House of Wolves. They released whatever the other one between House of Wolves was. Something about the moon. And then they released The Taken King. So I am glad that Activision is still keeping the game alive. But I really do think they're losing more players than they're gaining at this point. And you're going to have those diminishing returns on it. But let's move on.
I don't have a transition for
this. Thank God.
I did,
no, you didn't.
But then we talked.
We shamed him out of it.
A few minutes too long.
Yes. Mission accomplished.
You guys talked too far out of my transition, you bastards. And it was a stretch.
If it was a good transition, it would have stayed.
Good. Mission accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
God damn it. Anyway, we don't need to talk about this long, but this is a story that just came out recently from Amazon.com, and I thought it was very interesting, and I'm very excited to see what comes of it over the coming years. But Amazon announced a game engine called Lumberyard that they are releasing free to anybody, and free completely, not some free engines like the Unreal Engine in which it's free to use, but once you've sold so many copies, then royalties kick in. No, it is free forever. It doesn't matter how many.
That's actually not true with the Unreal Engine.
Sell.
I really need to correct you on that real quick. Unreal 4, you pay a subscription fee, which is $20 a month, and that's it.
Hey, for some people, $20 a month is too much.
Not arguing that.
People with no income.
Not arguing that. I'm just saying, like, Unreal 3 used to be, it was free, but then you pay royalties. Unreal 4, you just pay $20 a month. And, you know, how robust that engine is, I think that's a stellar deal. But please go ahead.
Well, I mean, you know, this is based on the Cry engine, which is still a pretty robust platform.
It's all right.
But it's free forever at any level, no matter how many copies you sell. Now, granted, you know, this isn't a thing that you're probably going to go gangbusters on. The only time costs come into place is if you do have some sort of online play back end that you need web services from. Since Amazon has AWS, Amazon Web Services, as servers and backends and whatnot, you will have a fee for that. But I do think you might get some sort of deal. I'm not really sure about that. But base service, completely free, no royalties, anything. You also, because Amazon owns Twitch, get a unique set of tools to allow very easy Twitch integration. Things like iDarb, things like Twitch plays Pokemon or Twitch plays whatever. Those kinds of things will be very easy to incorporate, and especially for a very streaming-centric group of individuals who are coming up and learning how to code, learning how to create games, wanting to have a lot of chat input into it. Those tools will be in place for those individuals to build into their games.
I think it's like you had just kind of mentioned it. I think it'll be cool to see how people who had, you know, have really grown up in an era when watching people play games and participating in a live discussion about that is almost as big as playing the games themselves. So, I mean, it obviously that's been around for a long time here, but not on the level that it has been, you know, in the past couple of years. So it's gonna be interesting to see, you know, how, you know, what developers are able to do with that kind of integration built in. Hopefully, it just means that all video games become salty bet. This is all I've ever really wanted in my entire life, so I'm okay with this. But yeah, I think it's cool to see a move like this, and I'm curious to see what kind of becomes of it in a few years. Hopefully, good games.
Yeah, you know, I don't see any massive publishers switching over to the Amazon Lumberyard, but I do see a lot of younger kids, a lot of people who are trying to get their foot in the door or just want to make a game for fun that they can play with their friends, that they can stream. I think it opens up the doors for game development and makes those tools available to more people and gives us more potential for
cool games,
interesting stories, interesting games, interesting, wacky, dumb streaming experiences. You know, I'm not saying that the first project that comes out of there is going to take the world by storm. I'm not saying that the first project that's going to come from it is going to be shit. It'll be interesting to see what happens, and I just think it's a very cool product, and I'm very happy that Amazon is making that available to people.
I have some issues with it, not like intrinsically with it. So the Crytek engine, before it went out of business, basically, and got bought out, was not the most optimized engine in the world, and that's why a lot of people didn't use it. That's, you know, issue number one. Like, who remembers what was the name? Crysis. Who remembers Crysis? Oh, sorry, my dog's barking about something. What are you barking about? That's right, nothing. Who remembers Crysis?
He
remember when there was a
Crysis.
bragging point about Crysis being able to just run on your computer? Yeah. Yeah. Who remembers Crysis 2 and 3? They were not as impressive as Crysis 1, but they were still decently good games. But the point I'm trying to make is the Crytek engine, which is basically what Amazon Lumberyard is, a very, very hefty engine. It's really not an engine you should just be picking up to make like a school project or something with. I can't imagine many companies switching over to it being free or not. I think the more professional thing for a company to do is either use Unreal, because it's just so freaking stable, or just use whatever you make in-house, which is going to be much more reliable than anything else. Besides Unreal.
For what you're trying to do, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think this is an engine that like big developers are going to be picking up anytime soon. This is for your hobby grade. This is for your Fig users and your Kickstarter users. This is for people who are trying to work on small project, individual products.
I would disagree that this is a small project game.
Like your AA video game.
I mean, it's bragging that it's for AAA video games, and I think Amazon's being front and center when they say that. You really should only use this engine if you're going to make a AAA video game. I'm going to be 100. I have videos online of me actually doing full level designs in the Crytek engine. You can't make small projects in that. You really just can't, not efficiently.
I just am going to demand the Crytek port of or the Lumberyard port of Undertale.
So Undertale was actually made in a free engine called Game Maker, which you can download right now. Very efficient, very easy. That you can make small projects in, 100%. Lumberyard is dead.
And I want the Undertale Lumberyard port. I want it.
That would be insane.
The graphics for all this text-based conversation is insane.
You know what? It may be a rough engine, but I think that Twitch integration is going to be a big selling point for a lot of people, because that's something that they don't have to build.
I think it's flashing the pan.
And I think that having that AWS backend that they can lean on, if they do have the funds behind it, I think that's also very important, because they don't have to worry about it. And probably half the time they're going to use AWS anyway, so they might as well use something that is perfectly integrated with AWS. Again, who knows? It'll be how it's going to turn out. But I'm very excited. I won't say I'm very excited, but I'm very interested to see what happens of it, and I'm glad it's a product that exists.
I'm interested to see, who's going to be the first person to, make the big splash here. I have no predictions or anything.
No, I'm lost. Not to say Amazon's bad. Amazon's a great company. Definitely. And do we have anything else, Josh? Anything else you want to horrifically segue into? His segues really aren't that bad, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes they're just like so... so trip over his own feet.
They're so bad but good. You hate to admit that you love them.
That's a very fair assessment.
But speaking of hating to admit that you love
he tricked
them,
us. No.
No, I want to see where this goes. Hold on.
You know you loved this podcast, so you should show us some love by subscribing here on YouTube, checking us out on Facebook at Unscripted Gaming, or following us on Twitter at unscript_gaming.
You're pretty good.
Yeah, that wasn't bad.
Thank you.
That wasn't bad at all.
I'm pretty good.
He's learning.
But I think that'll do it for Unscripted Gaming today. Thank you for listening. I'm Josh.
I'm Mike.
I'm Stan.
Peace.
See ya.
Play good games.